Hello everyone, welcome back to the, or at least I hope it's welcome back, to the Knife Edge UK YouTube channel. You can click on the link in the description below to go to the Facebook group. Please head over there and post anything knife related you like. It doesn't have to be UK centric, whatever you fancy. So what are we talking about today? Well, this is a bit of an ode to Spyderco from a UK knife lovers, or even I think probably a European knife lovers perspective. So I will do individual reviews on these knives, but I just wanted to do a little roundup of why I think in the final analysis, Spyderco are probably the company that best serve the person who has to have a knife that's non-locking, that's under a certain size, and that's even, one-hand opening or whatever, not one-hand opening or whatever. And, some of the little things that you can do along with that. So what have we got in front of us here? Well, we have a few sprint run Spydercos with custom scales, and essentially, this for me is one of the things that keeps me excited about knives, because here in the UK, we spend our entire time looking at a huge number of knives which come out from various different people, and they're wonderful knives, and I'm always interested. I watch all the reviews from various different reviewers, but nowadays I don't let myself have knives which aren't UK legal to carry without good reason in my collection. And the only reason for that is that I just don't really enjoy having a lot of safe queens at home. I like to carry, I like to use my knives, I like to sharpen my knives, I like to maintain my edges, and really, I got quite frustrated, and I sold, I had some lovely custom pieces, and I traded quite a few away, and all the rest of it, and really, it was Spyderco which made me feel like it was worthwhile. I carried on carrying knives. I always carry at my job. I always have reason to have some form of folder with me. I do a lot of typical EDC stuff that we do in the average kind of urban environment, and I always carried something. I actually carried this Squeak a lot, and that was really kind of the gateway into getting not back into knives, because I kept up with everything that was going on, but actually into the idea that I might have a collection again, and that there might be enough UK legal knives with high quality steels, with good ergonomics, with good blade grinds and geometry available to me. And so this is where we've ended up, really. And let's just talk about a few of the knives on the table and why I think what Spyderco does is so good for us guys who can't have locking knives and have to be under a certain size. So we'll start off with the ubiquitous UKPK. And this is wearing a Cuscadi, I hope I'm getting the pronunciation right, what are these? These are Eros carbon fibre. Let me get my brain in gear, I'm getting too excited. Carbon fibre scales. These are beautiful. It's got a little blue glow geared back spacer as well. It's wearing my own custom edge taken down to 17 degrees per side, and my own there we go, my own sharpening notch as well. It's absolutely razor sharp, and this is the S110V version. Now the standard S110V version looks something like this, and is still a great knife. S110V is one of my absolute favourite steels. It's quite easy to maintain if you have the right equipment. Certainly if you're sharpening with diamond stones, you have no real problems with S110V. It's a great steel. It holds an edge for a very long time. It's very stainless. It's just it's high quality stuff. It's one of my absolute favourites. The blade is 2mm thick, which is fantastic for guys who actually want a slicing utility blade, and for those of us that have to deal with no locking mechanism. One of the most wonderful things about Spydercos, along with their fantastic ergonomics in models like this, is the fact that you have the forward finger choil. So there is absolutely no way you are closing this knife on yourself if you're holding it in the manner it was designed to be held in. You just can't do it. I'm putting a lot of pressure there, and it hurts, but it will not cut me. It will not cut me. And believe me, with an edge like that, this is a fairly intimidating sort of cutting tool, and so you don't want that closing on your fingers. Excuse me. And here we have another one. This is the British Blades Forum, which is sadly now defunct, which is such a great shame. Urban. This was a run of Urbans that were done. They came in an FRN scale, which was in sort of British racing green. It's an LMAX blade. I've had ups and downs with LMAX, but when it's done properly, it's lovely. This is wearing my own edge. This is a, what did I do on this? I think I did a 17 degrees per side and then a 20 DPS micro bevel on it, because I have found that it can be a hair chippy if it's any more any more acute than that, but by and large it's fine. Again, it's wearing a Cuscadi scale. This is Blue Twill. They call it Skynet, I believe, and it's just beautiful. This is a fantastic knife. This is probably the Urban for me is my... If I could only have one model of knife, it would probably be the Urban. I have relatively small hands. Yes, Mr. Shabazz, I'm in there with you. And I just find that it works so beautifully. As you can see with my hands, I get full 4-finger grip. The thumb ramp is absolutely perfect. The geometry of the blade, it's got a fairly stout blade stock, which I actually quite like on this model. It gives it a little bit more strength, but it's also got it's fantastically thin behind the edge. Again, excuse me. And if I grab this is the K390 version of the Urban, it's got quite a bit of oil on it because K390 is not stainless. You have exactly the same thing. This is a modern version of the Urban. It's had a few very, very slight changes from a slightly older one, but it's just fantastic. It's just, yeah, it's spot on. These all have a half stop, but they don't work in that typical way that a GEC or something like that would. You know, really classic traditional life. They're a little bit smoother and a little bit softer, but the forward finger chords, it's no problem. We've got Squeak here. This has got customized titanium and laser engraved scales. This was a titanium Squeak originally, and this was an absolute beater. I've used this so much. It's been through, I mean, hundreds of boxes, you know, yards and yards and yards of tape, rope, all sorts, and it does have a few slight marks on the blade, which you probably can't see. It's wearing a 17 degrees per side mirror edge that's actually seen quite a bit of service. It's LMAX again. This run was in LMAX. And then Paul Watson at Rotorblade, you know, the Rotorblade Stubby and Pendulum and the Rotorblade Original and the Rotor Stone, all these fantastic EDC spinners and what have you. He's just fantastic. I've been associated with Rotorblade for quite a while, and he kindly, with his recent laser acquisition, did these gorgeous scales for me. I've polished the hardware because I think it works quite well against the quite sort of gentlemanly, snazzy, dressy kind of scales. So this was a beater, and now it's a bit of a dressy knife. So swings and roundabouts there, but it's a beauty. And then last but certainly not least, and this is just being discontinued, which kind of breaks my heart. This is the Anso and Vox collaboration Pingo. This was an Edge Matters sprint run done for the Edge Matters forum, which is a UK knife forum, and it's done in K390, which is one of my absolute favourite steels. And I've had a set of Python micarta grooved scales made for this, again from Cuscadi, and I love the Pingo. I love the Pingo mainly because of all the knives on the table here, probably along with the Squeak, it is the least threatening to the average person. You can carry a Pingo almost anywhere, in my opinion, and it has little problem. This is wearing my own edge again. This is quite a wide bevel because the Pingo is not the thinnest behind the edge, but it's still absolutely thin enough in my view. Mirror edge there, which I hope is showing. It's lovely to sharpen. I really like K390. Holds an edge like a beast. This one's been used for whittling and all manner of things, and I recently broke down an awful lot of boxes with this knife. It's great. K390 isn't the most stain resistant steel in the world, and that one's wearing a stone wash, which makes it a little bit more prone, but to be honest, I've not had any great problems with it. And again, the great thing about this is that it can't close on your hand. So this has got no forward finger choil. And I remember before I got a Pingo wondering about that, but this jimped area here that spreads out from where your finger sits in this nook, it puts the blade far enough away, but also when you try and close the knife, the jimping just grabs your finger, and there's no way that's going to hit you. It's kind of like the kick area of a more traditional knife, but you know, obviously you've got jimping and everything, and it does also allow you, if you're doing some sort of more fine work with it, if you're doing some whittling with this, you can get more forward on the knife. I wouldn't do anything heavy duty with that, but it works really well. This one, as you can see, is wearing thumb studs, with this being made particularly with the Danish market in mind, where you can't have one-hand opening knives. It just had a small Spidey hole, but this one has some thumb studs which are supplied alongside it when Edge Matters did the run. It's great. It has a lovely snappy action to it, clicks into place really well, and yeah, it just works. And that's the thing. And they're all wearing a wire pocket clip on top of that, which is one of the best pocket clips out there in my view, for discreet carry. No one really knows what it is, and when you're just carrying a knife around to use it for jobs and what have you, you don't want people worrying about it. So there you go. That's my ode to Spyderco from a UK knife perspective. They make knives which, for us over here, are just so practical, so usable. They get round so many of the worries and concerns that you might have. You know, for the average person who can have a locking knife, you know, they might just not want to touch anything that hasn't got a lock. And I understand that to a certain degree. But with knives like this, the lock doesn't really even serve that much of a purpose. If you're using the knife as it's intended, you don't even really need one. And I think these really show that off beautifully. And as you can see, I've lavished some time and attention on these because these are all very, very frequent carries for me. I don't carry this guy that often because for me, a UKPK is still a fairly substantial knife, but the other three I use very, very frequently indeed. And worryingly, I actually have some backups to these as well, which is slightly insane, but never mind. Right, there we go. Over 10 minutes now, so I've waffled on more than long enough. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you'll come back for the full reviews. I'll do a couple of reviews on at least a couple of these, and hopefully we'll catch you then. Take care, guys. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.